to your awards, but we've got a lot of other wonderful things for you that are happening today. And we'll have, in a short time, architecture categories and the interior design categories of the awards. And this afternoon, after our networking lunch, which I do hope you take full advantage of, we'll move on to the real estate and the development categories. But first, we have what we term one of our IPAX talks, which I hope will be both entertaining and illuminating as well. Please welcome to the stage our panelists, Mr. Trevor Cruz, Mr. Michael Volk, Ms. Irina Kostka, and Ms. Natalia Ottonello. Welcome into the stage. Do come. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, welcome. So nice to see you. I've spoken to all these people online, and it's really wonderful to be able to meet in person. So thank you for agreeing to be our panelists today. Let me introduce everyone formally. So first of all, to my left, we have Natalia Ottonello, architect and founder of Guevara Ottonello Architects. And Natalia is from Uruguay, graduated from Universidad de la República in 2007, founded her own studio with Ian Guevara, and the studio has designed projects on every scale, including residential, commercial, hospitality, and interior design. It emphasizes excellence, innovation, and uniqueness in every project. Next, we have Mr. Trevor Cruz, and Trevor is CEO of the Interior Designers of Canada, or IDC. And we're delighted to have Trevor with us today. Interior Designers of Canada is one of our valued professional body partners here at the International Property Awards, and is the national advocacy body for the interior design profession. IDC represents more than 5,000 interior designers, which I'm sure keeps Trevor very busy, and related professionals as well. And in addition, works with over 200 manufacturers and suppliers who provide products and services for interior design projects. Next, we have Irina Kostka, Principal and Director of Irina Kostka Architecture. Born and raised on the island of Grenada, Irina's pursuit of architectural excellence led her to the esteemed Leibniz University of Hanover in Germany, as well as the University of Queensland in Australia. Imbued with a passion for contemporary Caribbean architecture, she then discovered a unique synergy between her tropical upbringing and innovative design approaches. With a keen eye at harnessing natural elements, Irina's designs embrace the beauty and challenges of the Caribbean climate, reflecting a commitment to sustainability and function. And last but by no means least at all, we have Mr. Michael Volk, who is Chairman and Creative Director of Michael Volk Design. And I'm sure he won't mind me saying too much that he started designing professionally in New York while studying at Pratt Institute and moved to Miami in 1973. We'll whisper it quietly. Over the next 4 decades, he's assembled and led an extraordinary team of designers and artisans, has produced unforgettable interiors for luxury residences, hotels, restaurants, and public spaces. He's created furniture, lighting, and fabric lines for the world's top manufacturers. His work has earned numerous awards, including AIA Designer of the Year, and Michael Volk Design is recognised in magazines and coffee table books worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your panel. So let's first of all talk about sustainability, and let's consider to what extent sustainability impacts your design decisions. And how much has that changed over the last few years? I'm going to start with Natalia. Natalia, I understand that in Uruguay, the topic of sustainability has become much more to the forefront. In the last 5 years, things really have changed.
Yes, exactly. Today it is really a must, but some years ago we were like just starting. In our studio today, in every project we are thinking about sustainability strategies, sustainability measures in each of our projects. But we started that in some projects we've made abroad, because yes, in Uruguay is something that has started like maybe 5 years ago. But today it's really a part of each of our projects. We are always calculating energy balances, thinking of the best possible strategies in each of our projects.
And do you think that is something now that really architects and developers are taking very seriously? They're not just marking a box saying, oh yeah, we're very sustainable, we're good at sustainability. This is something that there's becoming to be a real passion about.
Yes, absolutely. And we have much experience in residential buildings, and today each developer is thinking how to improve the sustainability strategies, and it hasn't to be a cost that really changes things, and the opposite. It takes savings for the people that is going to live there. So it is something important that each of the developers are incorporating in the projects.
Michael, I know that sustainability is important to you, but I know also that much of the heavy lifting is actually done by manufacturers. It's products that you are incorporating into the designs and materials you're incorporating. That's where the sustainability comes in.
Right, well, is this on? Yeah. The manufacturers have the capability and the manpower and the money to actually do the research and development of materials that are like carpeting, for instance. There's not any major carpet manufacturer that doesn't have a product that doesn't put off gases and is eco-friendly. The wood companies are working with mostly sustainable forest wood. We're very careful about what we spec in our designs. And a lot of the heavy lifting is done by the manufacturers. The faucets, the appliances, the air conditioners, all of the lighting, all those materials now are based on the idea of sustainability.
And if you take yourself back to the beginning of your career, presumably this was something that wasn't considered back then? Did it ever come into consideration?
Not to the extent that it is today.
So it's really changed. And has it changed much, as Natalia said, within the designs that you're creating? Have things changed a great deal in the last 5 or 10 years?
I wouldn't say to a large extent. I mean, certain things like appliances, for instance, we don't have to go and do a lot of research to find which appliance companies have product that are, efficient and don't use more water than they have to. The faucets, the toilets, all of those things are now conscious about sustainability. So we don't have to make a supreme effort unless we're going for LEED, which my company's not involved in at the moment.
Fantastic, thank you. Could you pass your microphone to Irina, and then we can hear from Irina. And now, Irina, we know you live and work on an island, and obviously sustainability is, I'm sure, important to what you do, but how practical is it to be sustainable when you're having to import all the goods into Grenada?
Yeah, it's really not as easy as in other countries, because as you said, we are on an island, and manufacturing on the island doesn't happen on a large scale. For one, you don't have the manpower, you don't have the raw materials, so we literally have to import almost everything, especially if we want it to a certain degree of finish. So then, you know, as Michael said, you look at which products are the most sustainable, but the mere fact that we have to ship everything over, you know, from the US would be the closest place, but most times products that are in the US, they already come from China or from Asia or from Europe. You're already going against the mere meaning of sustainability by importing that. So, you know, in some instances we do what we can. You know, we get wood from the Americas, but then also shipping from the Americas to the Caribbean is a nightmare. So it would take just as long. And logistically it wouldn't make sense. It would probably be even more expensive. So that's something that we're struggling with a little bit, if I'm honest.
And does it sometimes inhibit the design decisions, the architectural design decisions that you want to make?
Definitely. I mean, if we have time, then it works. But if, you know, someone says, I need this done within the next 2 months, then we really struggle. Then we just have to take whatever we can get as fast as we can get it and just get it done.
Is that frustrating?
It can be, yes. You know, I mean, ideally as an architect, you want to take your time and plan everything out, and then if somebody comes with an amazing project, but the budget and the timeline is just minimal, you still want to work on it. So you have to do what you can and get it done. At the moment, we're finishing off we're renovating 13 hotel rooms, and too many things happened this year, and right now the lights will be coming in after the hotel reopens, so we're kind of like, ugh. So that's just one instance where, you know, it becomes very difficult.
By the way, we're going to open the floor to questions if our panelists allow a little bit later on. So if you have any questions and you're thinking, oh, I'd really love to ask a question, then save the question up, and if we have time at the end, we'll try and address some questions if we can. Trevor, your 5,000 IDC members are probably thinking about sustainability, and I know that you recently attended, let me see, it was a dinner. The 20 most influential heads of sustainability were invited to a dinner. So what was all that about? What were they trying to achieve by having that event?
Well, first of all, thanks for including us.
Our absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming.
I was invited to this dinner last October. It was put on by Metropolis Magazine and Mohawk Carpets, both organizations that are extremely interested in sustainability. And in Toronto was the first of 6 dinners they did around North America with the heads of the sustainability departments of the largest architecture and interior design firms. And they had everybody come together to share what they had learned so far in their practices, their best practices, and their challenges. And it was honestly one of the most rewarding conversations I've been part of since I took this position. And to see the willingness to share with their competitors, who they consider colleagues, in an effort for the entire profession to become better at being sustainable was really remarkable. They spent a lot of time talking about embodied carbon. They spent some interesting amount of time talking about decommissioning of buildings, which is, you know, a very specific piece of interior design and architecture that can make a big difference in the outcome of the sustainability of a life of a project. It was remarkable.
And can you remember what your sort of main headline was that you came away with, or the feeling that you had coming away? Were you feeling hopeful? Were you feeling...
Oh, yes, very hopeful. I think the main headline for me was that the entire community was on the same page. And these large firms were willing to open up to the rest of the profession and bring along the smaller firms that maybe don't have the capacity to practice at the same level in this area. It was just really about a willingness to work together as opposed to competing. It was remarkable.
I wanted to touch on our changing climate. I've already had conversations with a few people today about, oh, you know, it's lovely weather in Toronto, but it's really hot where I come from, you know, and wow, it's been a really strange summer. I'm sure, you know, we've all experienced peculiar weather of late. Let's talk a little bit then about how in architecture in particular you're trying to accommodate that. Natalia, I know that you have noticed in Uruguay that the climate is more challenging than it was.
Yes, I think climate change is affecting us all, and as architects we have, I think maybe there are like two main aspects. On one side, we have to try to make our buildings as environmentally friendly as possible, to try to impact less in the environment and improve in that sense. And like on the other side, we have to deal with the effects that the climate changes are already making in all the world. In Uruguay, we have like a moderate climate, which has always been very easy to deal with. And in those last years, we have seen many differences in the temperatures that have increased in the summer, and well, as in the whole world. And I think we have like those two aspects to deal with at the same time. We have to improve or the conditioning climate and try to make it as sustainable as possible. So,
and Irina, you know, it's quite warm in Grenada. Is it changing? Is it affecting the designs that you're creating?
Yeah, definitely. Especially this year, we recorded the hottest months ever. I mean, it's hot year round, so you can imagine if they say it's even hotter now, what that actually feels like with, you know, humidity of about 98%. So whereas before we would design in reaction to the climate, you know, shading systems, trying to cool the house passively without incorporating any artificial cooling, we're realizing that that actually isn't enough anymore, you know, and the heat is becoming so unbearable that you can't work from, you know, 2 p.m. or sometimes, I mean, this summer from 9 a.m. I'd get in the office and the staff already has the AC on, whereas usually towards the afternoon they put the AC on. So we're realizing that we just have to incorporate artificial cooling systems, and then how does the architecture react to that? You know, in the Caribbean, because of the climate, no one ever thought about insulation, so that's something we definitely have to incorporate now, whereas before, you know, it was like, if the client wants to do it, they can, and now we're literally saying this has to be done, otherwise you're not going to enjoy living in your home, working in your space, etc. So, you know, also before as mentioned, we allow the clients to decide, and now we're literally saying, no, you have to do this.
Could you pass the microphone to Michael? Michael, does this come into any of your design decisions that you're making with regards to interiors?
I think it's sort of a given that, you know, we have to follow what the architecture is doing. I'm seeing and noticing a lot more going back to some of the passive energy ideas that before air conditioning was available, just packing a house with as much air conditioning that they're setting the windows back so there's some natural shading. They're lifting the building, the houses off the ground, so there's circulation, and taking advantage of things that we've known about. It just got very easy to specify a bigger air conditioning unit, and that's starting to be reevaluated. So I'm seeing that effect.
When you're thinking about what is most important for your clients, when you've been doing this for a while, very well established, you have a wonderful client base, what's most important for your clients? Are they thinking about things like sustainability? Are they thinking about budget? Or does that all go out the window and they just want what they want? How do those outside pressures affect your clients?
I would say the upper end of my clientele just wants what they want. And it's all relative. I mean, there actually is a pain point even with my wealthiest clients, where what they wouldn't spend, but what they wouldn't spend for something is about 10 times more than somebody even thinking about getting into a house. So it becomes a relative issue about restraint and wanting only the finest materials, and the biggest spaces, the tallest ceilings, the most amount of glass, all the filtering systems in place. I do have some clients that are sensitive to what's going on in the world economically and sustainability and all of those issues, but
And do they want designs and furniture products that tell stories? When you can buy anything,
what happened? Well, I remember years ago I read a biography of John Lennon, and he said one of the most difficult points in his life was when he woke up and he realized he could have anything in the world that he wanted. And it became like an existential moment for him of thinking, well, what is it that I really want now?
didn't you used to be John Lennon's neighbour, Michael? Weren't you John Lennon's
No,
neighbour?
no.
I thought you had a studio next to John Lennon and Yoko
I
Ono.
built his studio in Broome Street. Right. He wasn't my neighbor, he was my boss.
He was. So tell me again, because I've got the story wrong. I thought your studio was next to his famous flat, his famous apartment.
No.
But he was your boss.
Well, John and Yoko got married, and she had a studio in Broome Street in Soho. And when they got married, they turned her studio into a film recording studio called Yoko Recording. And I, through a series of connections, I got to do that work, and then went up to Dakota and did some work up there.
Fantastic. He's got many stories to tell. You'll have to ask him for more of his stories later. Michael, thank you. Trevor, let's move on slightly, because as we have you here, and we've got you here for a limited amount of time, I wanted to find out more about the role of your organisation, because I'm not sure whether everybody will be familiar with what an organisation like Interior Designers of Canada does and how it works. So what's the main purpose of it?
Sure. So we act as an advocacy body for the entire profession, and that is across all sectors: healthcare, institutional, residential, development, commercial, corporate, retail, hospitality. And we spend a lot of time advocating to the federal government to make sure that our members are included in RFPs. I'm currently on a Code Advisory Council for the 2030 Building Code to make sure that the code is going to include things that affect our members' work and our clients' outcomes positively. So we do a lot of things like that. We do a great deal of interacting with the North American organizations, so IIDA and ASID in the States. We collaborate on many, many things with them. One of the things related to sustainability that we did in the last couple of years was put together a pledge for positive impact, which each individual practitioner can sign on to and accept as their own responsibility to make the right decisions for all of their projects in everything they specify. And so we have these sort of high-level motherhood issues that we want to ensure that the profession is made aware of, has an opportunity to employ, and just become very successful at the highest level. That's really our goal.
Because interior designers in Canada, and I'm not sure if it's the same everywhere, they have to be registered, they have to be affiliated and properly registered, don't they?
Yeah, and that's dependent on the jurisdiction you live in. So all professions are regulated provincially in Canada. So every province except Prince Edward Island has a regulatory body for interior design. The provincial government gives them the authority to call themselves an interior designer, potentially practice as an interior designer. You must have a 4-year degree program that's accredited with CETA out of the States. You cannot become a member of one of the provincial organizations if you've not done that, passed an examination, the NCIQ exam, and then stay current throughout your career. It's really about lifting the profession up to the highest level. We go to the American annual meetings for the examination, and the other bodies, and they always look at us and say, we need you to come down and teach us how to be more like you are in Canada. We're very proud of the level that we practice at. In Ontario, there's a Titles Act, so it's against the law for you to call yourself an interior designer if you do not have that training, you've not passed the exam, and you don't belong to AREDO, which is the registration organization. So we're very, very concerned about practicing at a high level and protecting the public and making sure that our members are really working at the highest level.
Michael, is it regulated in the US? Is it a similar system, exactly the same?
Yeah, and it's different across the country.
Not every state.
Yeah, every state sort of has different levels,
Yeah.
where the piece that a lot of the states are envious of is that we have one level across the country.
Fantastic. All right, thank you very much for that. Let's talk briefly about renovation over demolition. You touched on this earlier on, Trevor. Natalia, should we prioritise? It's wonderful to have a blank sheet of paper, a fresh piece of land, a brand new building. But should we knock the old building down? Should we demolish the old building before we start afresh?
Well, I think it's important to try to prioritize renovation wherever it is possible. It is not always possible, but when it is possible, I think it's important. And in our studio, we've made many projects of renovation of houses, residential building, commercial. Today we are making a university in what used to be a hotel, and it's very, very challenging and interesting for us to try to enhance the old structure and try to incorporate the new needs and to incorporate much light and ventilation sustainability measures, and to try to make it with a colorful facade and the energy for the students. So making it in an old structure, trying to transform it, and I think it's important for many reasons. I mean, for sustainable reasons, to try to use everything we can. Also, sometimes for historical reasons, also when the buildings have a significance to the city, and also for economic reasons, and trying to transform the building at a not so high cost, and transform it into a new building, incorporating all the new things that we need. I think it's good to do it wherever we can.
Trevor, could you pass the microphone? Thank you. Irina, obviously in Grenada you have a limited amount of land. You're limited. Space is limited. It's an island. There's a finite amount of space. Where do you stand then on renovation over demolition, or are you still at the stage currently where you can build fresh every time on a brand new plot?
Yeah, I mean, while it is an island, eventually it will be limited, but we're, thank goodness, still at a time where we can, build freshly. What we're finding is that renovating comes with, different challenges. For one, buying a finished building in Grenada costs just as much as building new. And then with the renovation, you have to think of the renovation costs, which will be added on top of that. So quite a lot of clients are reluctant to do that because, most of our clients, they want something contemporary, they want something modern, and then the existing structures don't speak to that. And then renovating them to the level where you're happy, it takes quite a lot of money to do so. But then the clients who have the budget and they want to do that, those projects are very challenging, but at the same time really interesting, because then you have to merge the old and the new, and you end up with products that are very unique, I find. It's not just contemporary and it's not just traditional, it's a beautiful blend of the two. which we always find very intriguing, and also finding products, especially when we start doing interior design, that merge the two, so you start thinking of, okay, what stays traditional versus what comes in with the modern. So with one of our hotels that we've been renovating, we will incorporate moldings, which we wouldn't typically do on a new building. So we incorporate the moldings to keep that traditional aspect, because also with a hotel or any commercial business, they already have a brand, and you kind of have to stick to that brand. You don't want to completely change it, but they do want to modernize. So then you look at, okay, do we incorporate some designer furniture that is very modern, or the lighting? How do you blend the two, stay on brand? And as I said, you end up with products that are extremely unique. So it is something it's like, it's a pain, a huge pain, but at the end you're just like, wow, it's actually extremely beautiful. So we're all for it once the budget is there.
Fantastic. All right, I wanted to end, not that we're reaching the very end yet, but I wanted to have a little summary of what we're excited for the future, what we're worried about for the future, and what we're embracing of the future. So, Michael, let's talk about artificial intelligence. Do we need interior designers anymore? We've got a supercomputer brain that can throw out designs, put the client's requirements in, and it will spit out a design for you.
Right. Well, it's not at that point yet. But
Thank goodness.
Yeah. No, I think all of that's possible. At the moment, we just started dipping our toes into the AI world, and next month I'm going to have my first introduction of the AI collaboration line of furniture, and it's just been a whole new world open to me. I know a lot of people are nervous about what's coming, and I think you can make a choice to either embrace it or try to fight it. I think trying to fight it is ridiculous, and putting your head in the sand also is not going to make it go away. So, I'm excited about it and embracing it to the extent that I'm not a highly technical, version of some of the designers that work for me now. They sit down at the computer and it's an extension of their fingers. For me, I draw every day, and that's an extension of my brain. So artificial intelligence is like another brain feeding it. And I know we talked about when the first manufacturer that I mentioned it to and got interested, and he had certain concerns about, well, what if we don't need you anymore, And I mentioned to you that what I did was I went into ChatGPT and I asked it what's coming in the next 5 years with AI, and I'll read you what.
Yes, please do. So this is what ChatGPT said about what's coming on the horizon. So you've heard it from, I think we call that, you've heard it from the horse's mouth in the UK. I don't know if you have that phrase, but yes, here it comes from the horse's mouth.
So, ChatGPT said, it is important to note that while AI can enhance and support the design process, human creativity, intuition, and expertise remain vital. Designers will continue to play a role in the shaping and guiding the application of AI to ensure meaningful and ethical design outcomes. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well done. Yes, if you could pass the microphone to Trevor. But Trevor, you've got 5,000 members. What are they chatting about on ChatGPT?
I don't know what they're all chatting about, but there's sort of a balance of concern and excitement. Last night I was at a discussion specifically about emerging tech in the architecture and interior design fields, and the remarkable thing I thought was how optimistic everyone on the panel was about how it was going to transform their businesses, allow them to, rather than have a linear design process of figuring out what the design is going to be and working through this process all the way till
working drawings and finishing, that they're doing everything simultaneously. And the systems can now price the project from the beginning. So the client knows from day one, will they be able to afford it? And it's making the whole thing easier. And one of the really fascinating parts was that these particular individuals on the panel didn't see that AI was going to replace them, but that AI was going to become a colleague. And it would just be someone else in the office that was helping them put out the best possible product and the best projects they could for their clients. It was really interesting. And the very last conversation was about taking all of that, using the disruption of that to improve a profession, several professions, and an industry that has been the same forever. We've added tools that made our practices quicker, but this is almost a tipping point that will allow how the construction development industry, how the municipalities and the zoning departments can speed up, God willing, the process of getting permits. We're at a terrible housing crisis in Canada, and I was looking at something yesterday where they were showing the time frame to get building permits, and Canada is the second worst in the world. And the technology that exists that should allow us to be better at doing that and making more sustainable buildings faster is just sitting there waiting for somebody to make it happen. It was fascinating.
Michael, you mentioned just now, in kind of in passing really, that you're still drawing, you're still drawing by hand. Do you think that the AI, the march of AI, has the potential to be the biggest change in your industry since you started working? Or do you think that's already happened with the computer-aided design, etc.?
TV was going to get rid of radio, and videos were going to get rid of TV. Anyway, I think, there's two quotes from people that know what they're talking about that sort of come to mind. One, Bill Gates said that we overestimate what AI is going to do in the next 10 years. We underestimate what it's going to do in 2 years. And the other quote, I don't remember who said this, but it's not so much you should be worried about that AI is going to take your job away, but you should worry about the person that's going to use AI that's going to take your job away. And that's pretty much sums up what I think is going to happen. Also realizing that the whole process that was mentioned about going from drawing into working drawings, into presentation drawings, into prototyping, all that's going to get condensed into a moment. And the idea is, even at this preliminary point, I get back ideas from my ideas that I feed into AI, in 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And whereas it might take me, 6 months to drive around and look at something and be inspired by something, this is like I get 16 different ideas.
And do you think in a way that could allow more time for your creativity?
Yeah, absolutely.
And more projects?
And just another whole source of inspiration.
Yeah. Irina, how is AI impacting on the life of an architect in Grenada? Is it coming into your office? Is it something you're embracing?
It is something that we're looking at now. It's not something
Are you
that's...
feeling inspired now you've heard Michael?
Definitely. And just this morning, one of my staff sent me an image he had put into AI, and he was like, this is what came out of it. He just put in a couple of keywords. I mean, we've been using ChatGPT like crazy because everybody knows architects are terrible at writing anything.
Is that true? Is that true?
And design.
Yeah, we're better at drawing and creativity. I've lost my writing brain ages ago. But anyways, I agree with Michael in that you have to use it, And everybody knows clients want everything right now, preferably yesterday. And this is just one way of getting it to them faster, and as you said, getting more projects done, and also, being able to manage a smaller team. I have a small team, and sometimes we're overrun with projects. You don't want to say no to projects because you don't know if in 6 months they're still going to be there. So this is one way of managing projects a lot faster. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still our ideas that will go into AI, you know, and then we correct it. So it's a way of having an intern who's very good at what they do.
Natalia, we can talk about AI, of course, but I think you've sort of almost taken this one step further with development and with excitement for the future, because you are studying neuroarchitecture. Does everyone know what neuroarchitecture is? Because this was something that was quite new to me, and I have tried to research it since. So tell us a little bit. I'm sure lots of people in the room will be aware of it, but tell us a little bit about neuroarchitecture and why you're excited for the future of it.
Well, it's a new discipline. I'm really excited about it. I think it's fascinating. It's like neurosciences applied in architecture. And I think as architects, it's very interesting to try to, all the discoveries made like in the last decades in neurosciences, to explore the impact in architecture. It's very important. I mean, when we design spaces, to be aware of the impact we are having on people's life, on people's mental health. It's something that is very interesting, and when in our studio, when we are designing projects, we are thinking all the time in the impact it's going to have. Depending on the program, we think of, for example, if when we are doing the university, to make spaces that could be inspiring, that help students to focus, to know what they are doing. When you are doing a residential building, to really think of the way to make places happiest. And so the neuroarchitecture is studying the intersection between neuroscience and architecture, and studying how every space we are designing, the impact it's making on people's mental health.
And you're taking this really seriously. You're going back to school, aren't you?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm starting a master in Venice, and because I'm working with this since some years, and it's really interesting for me, and I wanted to be able to continue exploring everything that we can do to improve health and mental health, and to make spaces that could improve that in people.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and good luck with your studies. Trevor, just to finish off then, and we will take questions if we have time afterwards, but just leading on from what Natalia is now researching and going to be studying and so passionate about, how much of a difference can a good design make in somebody's life, do you think?
A remarkable amount of difference. I think designers and architects, developers, all can impact day-to-day life on every level. You can become healthier, you can become wealthier, you can become saner. There's many, many ways that good design can improve your clients' lives. And even your clients' clients, people that you're not interacting with, you're having a significant difference in bringing value to their lives. We're partnering right now with Science in Design, which is a conference entirely on neurodesign, and it's really a fascinating field. I'm jealous that you're going. I love going to school. So
We'll bring Natalia back once she's done her studies, and she can tell us all about it and share her experience. Irina, how much of a difference are you trying to make to people's lives, and how much can good design and good architecture influence how people live and their enjoyment of it?
I mean, I
think that's the basis of what architecture is. You know, I was recently at a meeting with the Architecture Society in Grenada. Unfortunately, we don't have anything regulated, fees or anything like that. And we were talking about how, you know, engineers' fees are regulated in the country, and we want to try and get the same done for architects. And almost all the architects in the room were kind of downplaying, you know, safety and so on. I was like, guys, listen. Apart from, you know, safety issues, think about how much we impact people's lives. You know, I mean, you can design a space. Imagine if the ceiling of this building was, you know, 5 or 6 feet lower, how we'd feel. And this is just one aspect of this room. So you can go in depth of, you know, several elements, and it all ties back to neuroarchitecture. And I'm happy that it's now a discipline on its own, because you would have studied architecture and it was kind of, you know, in the background, but it wasn't defined. And I'm happy that this is happening now, because we underestimate ourselves and our values. And I mean, architecture is for human beings, you know, and that's the basis of it.
Lovely, thank you. If you could just pass the microphone on to Michael, who will give the last word to you. Michael, I was fascinated when we spoke and we were talking about the panel, and I can't remember how we moved on to the subject, but it transpired that the designs that you create are quite different from how you prefer to have your home environment. Share a little bit of that with us, because how does that all fit in with this idea of living well and creating
Did I say they were significantly different?
I think you said that you prefer a maximalist environment, and...
No, I think my clients do.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I might have made a comment about that. It's a little bit of a generalization, but my clients, to some extent, want more, almost like showbiz.
Yeah.
You know, more Hollywood.
Razzmatazz.
They want to be walking into a space and wow.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like I want authenticity and electricity. You know, I want almost like a sacred space, you know, that I love being in. And when I walk in from some others from outside or inside, everything goes up, you know, and my heartbeat and everything goes down a little bit. So it's calming, and it surrounds me with, you know, everything from practicality of coming in from a hot Miami day into air conditioning, you know, elevates my mood. But it also, you know, the space, the colors, the textures, the materials, everything that I'm touching and sensing is working my soul and soothing my soul. And for some clients, I hope that's what I'm doing for them. But you know, verbally they're saying to me, we want. I almost cringe when I hear this, the wow factor. You know, I don't even know what that means. You know, what kind of wow? What is it that wows you? Because you know, maybe I can help you out.
I guess that's the key question, isn't it? And that's back to the idea of this neuroarchitecture, is whatever makes whoever is at the center of the design, your students that you're designing for, your wonderful homeowners in Grenada, the clients, the 5,000 interior designers looking after, and Michael's clients. It's whatever makes them happy at the center of every decision. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge vote of thanks to our panelists. Thank you so much. I know it's light here, but it's very dark over there. But does anyone have a question that they would like to ask? If you can raise your hand if there are any questions at all. If not, I can't see if there's any hands raised. Any questions? No? Martin, can you see any hands raised? No, okay. Well, thank you so much. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Michael Hogg, Mr. Bruno Costa, Mr. Trevor Cruz, and Ms. Natalia Otto. Thank you so much. So, just whilst we have a little reset, I think we're going to have some Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and evening. Trevor, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. So we're just going to